order. Item 2, Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody can stand. Face the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, roll call. Bob, you want to start us?
Bacon present.
Sarji Chowdhury present.
Fig present.
Zalid present.
Keyquam present.
Milky present.
Myers present.
Seeing the quorum present, we'll move on to item 4. Approval of tonight's agenda. How's that look? Long?
We'll get
Oh, that's not bad.
Don't have a meeting, it all piles up.
Is that a motion?
Motion to approve as presented.
Motion by Jim, support by Chowdhury. All in favor of approving tonight's agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Agenda's approved. Thank you. Let's go on to item 5, approval of meeting minutes. Have in your packet from February 20th, regular meeting.
I move we approve the minutes as presented.
Support.
Me.
Got a motion by Bob,
Me.
support by Chowdhury. All in favor of approving those meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. And the meeting minutes are approved from February 20th. And March 19th, we didn't have a quorum, but we do have some minutes in the packet.
Motion to approve March 19th minutes.
Support.
A motion by Milky, support by Fig, to approve those March 19th minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Minutes are approved. Going on to item 6, presentation. What's that about? Presentations? Anything? Item 7, public comment. Everybody online? Anybody? Saying no public comment. Move on to item 8, accounts payable approval.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
I'll go over the accounts payable for the East DDA first. I'll include both months, March and April. So we had a payment to Consumers Energy on 3/18 for $727.37. And we had a payment to Johnny's Lawn Care for snow plowing in February along Pickard, and that was for $844.80. We had a payment to MMI for maintenance on the grounds along Pickard there in February. That was for $246. And then in April, we had a payment to Consumers Energy for $661.08. We also had a payment to Black Electric to install the spring banners on Pickard Street. That was for $150. And a payment to Charter Township of Union for utilities at 3 properties there, $164.22. And we had a payment to Green Scene Landscaping to fill the planters on Pickard, getting ready for spring, $3,313.84. And a payment to MMI for the park bench and grounds maintenance along Pickard for March, $246. So we have total accounts payable for the East DDA for $6,353.31 for your approval this afternoon.
Make a motion that we approve the payables for the East DDA for the months of February and March as presented.
Support.
A motion by Zalad, support by Fig, to approve the East DDA payables. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Motion is approved.
Moving on to the West DDA, we just had one payment in March to Johnny's Lawn Care. That was for snow removal on sidewalks in the West DDA in February. And that was for $501.60. So that's your total accounts payable for the West DDA for the 2 months.
Move that we approve the bill for the West DDA for the months of February and March as presented.
I second it.
Got a motion by Zalad, support by Chowdhury. To approve the West DDA payables. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. And motion is approved.
Okay, moving on to the financial reports for the East DDA. These financial reports are as of the end of March. All of the payables you just approved are posted here. In the revenue area, we're showing about $19,000, and that's for bank interest earned. And then for the expenditures so far this year, we have a little over 22,000. And then looking at your balance sheet for the East DDA, you have about 2.6 million in cash and assets and fund balance. Are there any questions on the financials? For the East DDA. I'll move on to the West DDA. Looking at the revenue and expenditure report, there's a little under $14,000 in revenue so far this year. That's basically for interest earned on the bank accounts. And then we have some expenditures posted here, a little over $6,000. And then on the balance sheet for the West DDA, you have about 1.6 million in assets and total fund balance and liabilities. Are there any questions on the West DDA financials?
Hearing no comments, questions? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's let the record show the financials were presented and filed. Item 8E, the board member matrix for your review. Looks like ours is on page 21. No comments on that. We'll move on to item 9, new business. Looks like we have a couple of requests for board action. What do we got there, Rodney?
The first one on your list, this one has been with us for a little while now. You've seen this in the previous packets. This is a request to approve a bid from Green Scene Landscaping for for some landscape improvements in our East DDA district along the Pickard Road corridor. This is it was a necessary step to take this project out for bid because of the road construction work that basically wiped out much of that road margin landscaping. We do have, of course, all the park benches are back, all the round concrete planters are back, all but a couple of the street lights are back. Those are, you actually see those last couple come in near Packard Street shortly. But the landscaping, the plantings and such that were removed for the road work, MDOT did not reinstall those. That was not part of the scope of their work to put things back. So we did take this project out for bid. We advertised it fairly heavily and also sent it to all the local landscape contractors and several even more regional contractors that do this sort of work. We did only receive one bid back, and that's the one you see in your packet from Green Scene Landscaping. The bid package was essentially broken down into three parts. One was to prepare the concrete planters for the planting of flowers. Pleasant Time Bird Farm, Dave Breedlove from that firm takes care of the flowers, but all those concrete planters needed to have the soil put back. That was removed by MDOT, not restored. And it also gave us an opportunity, frankly, to improve that soil as part of that process. So that was kind of part one. Part two was restoring the perennial plantings around each of the park bench areas and around those concrete planters. And then the third part was to restore plantings in and around the interchange area. So you'll see the bid in here for that work, a total of $55,954.65 for all three elements. That does include maintenance to make sure those plantings get started for this year. One of the two details that come up with this. One is that since we don't have irrigation along the road corridor outside of the interchange area, or on most of the road corridor, the areas east of the interchange have irrigation, but to the west of the interchange, because they don't, we would be looking at asking Green Scene, if this is approved, to tailor their plantings for around those park bench areas to be hardy for those conditions, to be able to thrive under existing rain and existing water that would be coming to them without the irrigation system. They will be irrigating them. They will provide that water, get them going, as they've noted in their plans for this year, for the early part of the growing season. But the idea would be then to set the plantings up so they'd be able to thrive even without the irrigation system. For those areas that do have irrigation, we may choose a slightly different mix that would thrive with irrigated service. The other element I will note, and it was actually part of the check register that you just approved, is that because of the timing of things, because this project has been delayed for a couple of months now, we did go ahead and ask Green Scene to provide us with a separate bid for just filling those concrete planters with soil. And you actually saw that as part of the East DDA check register. It was a bill for about $3,000 to do that work, which has been completed. And so those are ready for the flowers that will be planted there shortly with the warm weather, I suspect very shortly. So that piece is still part of your project here. But in terms of this item and how it's paid, we do have sufficient funds under the flower and landscape maintenance budget for the East DDA, more than sufficient to cover that $3,000. So that was approved per the Board of Trustees policy governance policy related to administrative authorizations that was approved by the Township Manager. So with that in mind, I'm happy to answer questions about this one. We are comfortable with recommending Green Sea Landscaping as the contractor go forward with this project, and we'd be pleased to have your support to move this ahead.
So just to be clear, the $3,100 that we've already paid them is coming off these, one of these numbers?
Well, it's still within this budget, and my recommendation is to keep it within this budget. The amount they've asked for is 55,000 and change.
Yeah, my question is if we approve the 55, we've already paid them 30.
We've already paid them, yeah, 30, it's a total of 3,300 and $3,313.84.
So that's included in these
Included.
numbers, and then we just pre-approved, the administration just pre-approved that work
That's correct.
ahead of time, so, okay, no, that's really the only question I had.
Have we ever thought about maybe scaling them back a little bit? I mean, I've heard comments from some people that there sure are a lot of benches.
A lot of what?
A lot of benches. I've heard
Oh.
some people comment on how many there are. I just wonder if we have some, but we might almost have an overkill of benches on that stretch.
Well, the benches that are along there,
I like the landscape. Some people commented that, boy, you got benches every block or so.
it's interesting.
Not frequently used.
Yeah, I agree with that. You occasionally see people using them. People use the garbage dispensers more commonly.
That's the big,
Which
yeah.
frankly is a good thing.
Yes, yes.
And,
Yes,
it's-
almost pay more to get the garbage dumped more often and less benches.
but to some extent, the benches actually help identify where they can do that. So there's sort of a piece of this is the area where you take care of that. The benches, I mean, obviously, if we were designing this today, we might design it differently than what was designed then.
Yeah.
The setup is, this is more than just benches. There's decorative concrete there. There's planter units there. So I'm not sure I would take anything out at this point. But the other element I would say, with the benches, planters, the flowers, all of that creates a character. It creates a statement that this business district is the place you need to be. This is that we care about these businesses. We support these businesses,
I agree.
and it really makes a statement for.
I see the purpose for having some. I'm just commenting on the number.
Right. Yeah, certainly something, my suggestion would be is, when the time comes, that we need to do maintenance on those again, or replace them even, that might be worth looking at, considering.
My 2 cents is walk around parks and trails and everything. And the older I get, the more I appreciate the spot to rest. So I don't know on a corridor as busy as that is if you can have too many benches.
It's
That's
not,
just my
it's not a
personal
real
opinion.
restful spot to
Yeah.
sit, you know.
Well, it's gonna get better.
Wasn't a
Yeah,
problem
no.
20 years ago. Right. I make a motion to.
I'll support.
Got a motion by Bars, support by Zalid, to approve this.
If you look at the end, page 9 of your
Oh,
packet,
that's
you'll see
right.
the
You gotta read it.
Want me
recommended
to read
resolution
that,
there.
or do I have to read it?
I recommend it, that way it gets in the
A
specific.
recommended resolution, you want to read that?
Yes. Approval of contract to provide landscaping improvements along East Pickard Road, M20 corridor from Packard Street east through the US 127 interchange and east to South Somerton Road, and to amend the fiscal year 2024 East DDA budget for this project.
And actually, what I was looking for is actually the end, page 9. And the only reason I'll say it's there's one addition in the recommended resolution, and that is to authorize the township manager
Page
to
9.
sign the service agreement. Yeah,
Probably page,
Mine's page 3.
page 3 of the,
Page 3 of the
page 24 of the total package.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, I apologize. I'm
Okay.
looking at the older version of the printout. Page 24 of the packet.
Then he has a title, recommended resolution.
Where am I on the page?
Yeah.
Right at the bottom.
Right at the bottom.
Wait a second. Well, recommend, okay, I'm sorry,
You
page
got it,
25. So would we,
Yeah, reread that.
Okay, I can do that. To accept the bid from Green Scene Landscape, provide the proposed scope of landscape improvement services, including park bench and planters, US 127 overpass, in 2024 maintenance plan for planting beds with the defined service areas of the East DDA district, to authorize Township Manager Mark Studemeyer to sign a service agreement with Green Scene Landscaping LLC for these services, and to amend the fiscal year 2024 East DDA fund budget to add an appropriation of $56,000 for these services.
Support.
The motion by Barr, support by Zalid. Any more comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. And the motion is approved. Thank you.
Nice job, Rodney. That's well handled. Thank you.
So you want to move on to the holiday lighting?
Thank you. You have our memo from dated February 14th. This is, comes up every 3 years. It's time to renew or establish a new agreement with our holiday lighting contractor. We did not take this out for bid, as we discussed at a previous meeting. Consensus of the EDA board was to invite our existing contractor at Hometown Decoration Display to provide a bid for a new 3-year agreement. And that agreement is in your packet. A couple of adjustments for the new agreement. We have asked them to move to all LED lighting. This last season, you actually saw a mix. There were, I think, about 2/3 were LED and 1/3. I think the Christmas trees were the 1/3 that were the incandescent. And if you saw, there was a significant difference in how bright they were. But anyway, we've asked them to move to all LED. That's the direction they're going overall anyway for the future. We've asked them to go ahead and do that with our agreement. So it would adjust the display a little bit because the Christmas trees are not LED. The bid for 3 years would be $12,400 per year. That's an increase. Our contract that just expired was for $10,800 per year. We are very comfortable with this contractor. They've done excellent work for us. They've been very easy to work with, and we would recommend this to you for your approval and to move this project forward as well. There again is a resolution on page 41 of your packet that references the amount. I noticed that the amount on the first page, it's not in the action request. So if you would use that resolution language in any motion. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
I just had an unrelated comment on these light poles. Did you notice some of the bases are shattered from construction? Looks like they're fiberglass. You know how they're like round? A couple of them have big chunks missing out of them. Maybe that's something we could assign MDOT punch list, maybe?
Yeah, sounds like a punch list item to me.
Yeah. Take a look at that. Thank you.
I move to approve a new 3-year service agreement with Hometown Decorations and Display LLC to provide holiday decorations, display equipment, materials, and installation along East Pickard Road in the East DDA District, subject to annual appropriation in the amount of $12,400, and to authorize the township manager to sign the service agreement.
I second that motion.
Got a motion by Zalid, supported by Fig, to approve this resolution. Motion?
Quick comment, this is money well spent.
Okay,
Big fan.
any more comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. The motion is approved. And moving on to item 9C, discussion of the Petro Plaza property. What do we got?
Thank you. Everybody should have a copy of our memo from March 14th. This is a follow-up discussion to the presentation that you received back in January from the current owner of the Petro Plaza, Mr. DeGroat. He is interested in selling the property. Obviously, in the package, you have the listing information that you've seen before. We talked about some of the background of this property. The request today is to consider starting the process to look at purchasing this property through the East EDA district for redevelopment. The details of this, the memo details how this project is consistent with implementing your East EDA district development plans and the implementation strategies that you adopted back in 2021. The goal here is to maximize the benefits for the East EDA district and to create economic development opportunities where there are opportunities to take advantage of them and to effectuate the goals of the development plan for those purposes that are outlined in the plan. You'll see the first few pages of the memo. We outline some of the priorities that are listed in the East EDA development plan and that are intended to effectuate our goals for the district, including property acquisition, demolition and site preparation, and in some cases what the plan calls project gap financing. The plan, we quoted in the plan up at the top of the page, this is top of page 45, where it talks about the purpose of the DDA based on Act 57 and our East EDA development plan. The EDA board can use funds captured through tax and financing, quote, to pay for improvements otherwise could not be afforded by either local businesses or government, or to incentivize projects that are not that otherwise are not feasible due to development costs that exceed possible revenue. This project, the site, has been of benefit to the community, but it is outdated. And as we note in the report, that this project, the site meets the definition of being functionally obsolete, as outlined in state law and the Commercial Rehabilitation Act. And so there's an opportunity here to make a change, and that's what this is intended to do. Effectuating our plan to reposition this property for maximum benefit, both for the district and for the community. And the first step really is to look at what is this property actually worth, and that's where your action today comes in. Asking today simply for authorization to seek out an independent appraisal of the property and see what comes back on that. Obviously, that would then come back to you for further consideration. With that, I'm happy to answer questions about any of the elements of the report or any other questions you may have.
How many acres is the parcel?
I believe it's just over 3. I don't think,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you know what the property taxes are on that parcel?
I do not.
It mentions in here that 4 of the buildings were occupied by Tribal College. And I know they're expanding and going different directions. They just leased them. They didn't own them, they just leased them.
That is correct, yeah.
Okay.
The property is owned by Mr. DeGroat.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can get a property tax for you here.
Oh, great,
Yeah.
thanks.
Assessed value currently $855,300. Taxable value $627,445. Bear with me. it's taxed on currently 600,000 roughly. I'm looking for a,
Mhm.
this won't have the tax bill, my apologies.
Okay. But it gives you a sense of what it would be.
Right. It states the land value is at 147, I'm rounding numbers, 147,000. Total acres, 2.82. I don't know if that helps, but
Yeah.
Okay, no. Just a couple questions.
Let's see. It's,
Yeah, I guess what I'm struggling with on this proposal, a couple different things, but, you know, just throwing out numbers of what, you know, has been offered as far as, you know, by the time you buy the land, the buildings are obsolete, so they gotta be demoed. And so we're gonna, you know, we're gonna have enough, and maybe we need an appraisal, but if the appraisal's a few hundred, you know, $1,000 or something, it'd be one thing, but I'm gonna have a hard time spending in excess of $1 million or fund equity for a 3-acre parcel. That, I have no idea what it's worth, but I don't, it's, what, a couple, 200,000-300,000, you know, when we're all done and said. I just would like to think that we have better places to put our money. And I understand we run against the fund balance, so we want to turn that over. But because of staff's diligent efforts, they procured a grant from the DEQ or Eagle to do our water main loop that we were going to spend and had budgeted. So that's been taken off our platter. So it isn't like we didn't have some projects in the works to do that. So I'll keep an open mind, but this is not a small parcel in town where, you know, it's a blighted area and we're gonna, you know, $20,000 here or there. We've been supportive of those efforts, but boy, this is just gonna be a lot of money. And I'm gonna look hard at what other things we can do for that dollar. And the second point I would make is, you know, the board is here to encourage economic development and understand, again, the rules are the rules. I like to think I try to follow the rules. So it's a non-conforming use, but boy, if there's any way we can keep that on the tax rolls as is and try to get a variance, help the owner get a variance. But to tell the owner that, hey, you can't sell it because, you know, it's grandfathered in, and when you sell it, that grandfathering is gone. And then it's up to him to tear down the building, and, you know, I'm not sure what he will do, but I just, that's not very development friendly to me.
I appreciate your comment. I will note, if I may, just make a
Yeah,
couple of
sure.
corrections. There was nothing about preventing the owner from selling the property, and the legal non-conforming use runs with the land. It doesn't run with the owner. So,
I understand that.
so none of that is impacted by the sale of the property or transfer it to another owner. The challenge is entirely that the legal non-conforming use of those 4 buildings is not office, it's institution of higher education. And it's because of that is the legal use of that, the protected use of those 4 buildings that were occupied by the tribal college. Or 5 buildings, I'm sorry. 4 buildings.
4 of the 5.
Yeah.
The 5th building was occupied by offices, so that one, the legal non-conforming use is still offices. As we talked about in previous meeting, the offices are allowed in the industrial district only as an accessory use. So that essentially is, if there's an industrial business, such as the old Birch Tank business, where he had an office building up front, he had his industrial operations behind it, Of course, Bandit has, still is using those office spaces today in the same manner. Those offices are accessory to the industrial operation on the same site. Our zoning administrator made a determination that that accessory office use would still count for an industrial business that is on a nearby site in the same industrial park. So he made that interpretation, which he
Yeah,
has
no,
the authority to do, and
that's-
that sort of broadened it out a little bit, but it still limits the office use to basically something supporting an industrial operation in that park. So it does restrict the ability to make use of that site. But that's actually not the most important situation really here. To my mind, the key element here is that this is the key property in that industrial park. It is the most visible property in the park. It's right in that corner. And what we have are functional obsolete buildings that are facing inward. They put their rear end to the road. They are low-rise buildings. They're small. They're not easily adaptable because of that. The property has been well maintained, but it is aging. As we talk about this, simple things like the sign being cockeyed, it make the property look look worse than it is. I say it's well maintained, but that sign is for a long time has been off kilter. It makes it look like it's not being maintained. But what we're looking at here is an opportunity to make a change on that site, to redevelop that site, develop it for an industrial use. We talked about applying some of the types of building spaces that are highly desirable, for which we're turning away opportunities because we don't have any existing buildings that meet the requirements. That will change the character of that industrial park, that key spot, and create a new character for that park that will drive other things to happen. It's interesting, in my world, now this is not industrial, but early in my career, I worked for, it was like a DDA. It was actually a neighborhood. It was an older neighborhood that had an improvement organization. They had a few dollars. Most of them were community development block grant dollars. They had a few dollars to make improvements. It was literally 5 figures. I think it was about $20,000. And basically, I was given the opportunity to figure out what to do with this, and we could make a big difference. And we looked at what that could be, and they had a little street margin. They had sidewalks, about 2 feet of grass, and then the curb. The city had just rebuilt the streets, the curbs, but that was just this weedy margin there. Sidewalks were in good shape. And so it happened the DPW had a bunch of leftover decorative bricks. They already had bricks. And said, can we just brick up that space? And I think we did that. We planted a few trees. We replaced a couple of park benches in the space. And a few other things. But those bricks were the main thing that we did. And that we were expecting a little bit of impact.
Yeah.
What happened was the businesses saw that, and the businesses said, wow, look at what the community did. Look at what they care about us. This area was always sort of the backwater of this community. It was the poor stepchild of the community. They care about us, and so all of a sudden the businesses invested. We had business all of a sudden put up new outdoor seating areas. The restaurant, the deli did. The amazing one was a jewelry store that the owner was about to move out. He had decided, he'd already decided that he was moving out of the community. He saw what we did. He decided to stay, and he redid his entire facade, rebuilt the entire facade, and redid the interior of the building. I don't know how much that was an investment at the time. It was 20-some years ago. But it was certainly a 6-figure investment in this building instead of moving out. So you never know what impact you can have from an investment. Now, this is not a small investment, but it is the key property in the Enterprise Industrial Park, a park that it really could be even more than it is right now. And to reposition this particular site and make it an asset to this park in a way it's not an asset right now. It's neutral at best right now. To make an asset to this park that may be transformative, similarly transformative, to the businesses that are around this site. And it certainly will create an opportunity for new businesses to move into the park, new employment opportunities for the district and for the community. So this is a valuable change to make. It is a valuable investment to make. It's one strictly from a return on investment perspective, I agree, it does not work. But that's what DDAs were created to do, was to deal with blighted properties or functionally obsolete properties and to be able to make a change. There may be opportunities to bring in some grant money that helps us out along the way. We have been working with the state of Michigan, the Office of Rural Development, and received some grant money. I think we talked about that for planning purposes, for potential future industrial development. There are some programs that this may fit, but until the township controls the property, we cannot even apply for those. So we may be able to bring some additional funding into this, but even without that additional funding, this project is completely consistent with the East DDA development plan and the strategies that you adopted in 2021. We're simply trying to effectuate that plan through this process.
Rodney, I have a couple of questions, a couple of comments. I did listen to the presentation in February, and even though I couldn't communicate for some reason, I could not get through. I was muted out or whatever it was. But I listened to a lot of things. There was a couple of things that came up, and someone suggested, I think. Possibly a variance. Is there any other plan down the road? Is there any other thing that property could become under, rather than the problem it has right now with its marketability?
Thank you for asking that. So, of course, our planning commission meets tonight. They meet after this meeting at 7 o'clock. And so after that meeting, at the request of the board members at that meeting, I did bring that forward to the planning commission. At the end of the agenda, we had a conversation about this project. I reiterated what was shared with this board, and it explained to them the zoning issue that we have with these legal non-conforming uses. The fact the office is not allowed in the district as a standalone principal use, and there was some discussion about that. I will tell you that the Plan Commission was not interested in having this on their agenda at this time. They said it may come up again. They're working on, the reason they've said that, by the way, is they're working on the master plan. We're starting the update of the master plan process. So the intent is that those kinds of questions would come up organically as part of that master plan update. They were not interested in bringing it forward as a separate item. Certainly, the owner can at any time propose an amendment to our zoning ordinance if they wish. So the owner can pursue that if they choose to as a separate application. But for the Plan Commission, they were not interested in discussing it separately. And I think largely the reason for that is that this is an industrial district. We have offices are allowed. We have 3 commercial districts, 3 business districts. And the majority of the land that's not zoned residential or agriculture is in one of those 3 business districts. And all 3 allow offices as a principal use by right. We also have an office district. It's a small one. It's primarily healthcare related, but that also allows offices as a principal use. So there is a substantial amount of land available for modern offices to be built tomorrow. Simply come in, site plan approval, and they can be built. We have very limited industrial land where we could actually have a significant building, a significant business use, where we have utilities, where we have the road infrastructure, and we have that close proximity to the expressway. Those are the absolutely key elements for the site selectors. Property and proximity to the freeway with the infrastructure. And not only do we have the water and sewer utilities there, but we have the broadband internet, fiber optic utilities in that space. So we have access to everything that the site selector community is looking for when they're trying to bring a business into our community at this location in the Enterprise Business Park. The question about variance, I think, is a good one. The township does not have authority to grant a use variance. So there's no authority for our zoning board of appeals to say to grant a use variance to allow offices to be a principal use of this site. It would have to be done through an amendment to the zoning ordinance, or rezoning to a different zoning district. Those are basically two ways that can be pursued. And we have talked with the applicant about that, and provided information on those options if they choose to pursue it. Neither of those are options that the Plan Commission is interested in pursuing on their own. But certainly, as I said, this topic will come up as the master plan update moves forward over the longer term. The key, though, is that this property is not well suited for office. It's the best use of this property is general industrial. That's what the zoning is for. That's what the industrial park was designed for, and it is an excellent site for an industrial warehouse distribution center type operation to develop.
Well, I understand, you made the comment about, I understand function obsolescence very well. I operated for 45 years in a function obsolescence office, and it's still function obsolete. It's still successful.
Somehow you managed.
But I understand the concept of how this fits in that park. It was built way back when. I had clients that lived in there, rented in there for years, and I'm sure we worked with Mr. DeGrode on different things for years. But I have to go along with Mr. Zalin, and the fact that the cost of this is so astronomical. I mean, it's a tremendous amount of our fund. And you look at the return on investment, maybe that's not how we're supposed to measure it, but I'm looking at $22,000 a year in taxes. Of that, some of that's gonna come to the township. It'll never be enough to pay back, even in the future, even if someone puts $1 million building up there, you know what I mean? So me, I'd rather see.
That's the purpose of the DDA district.
Well, I
That's the
understand
purpose
that.
of the law,
Right.
is actually to effectuate.
I understand that, please. I would think that our money could be better invested in either buy land and put in a new commercial park or something like that. I mean, for $1 million, and I don't know if it's 10,000 acres, 20,000, you can get 50 acres or 100 acres, whatever. Just enough I'd rather see our money go to something that would be more beneficial in the long run, and then it pays back.
I agree with you. I agree with you, what you're saying.
I don't understand.
He said he agreed with
Oh,
what you
okay.
said.
Yeah.
I just want to jump in on yours, Jim. I think you said everything real well. If we're looking at $1 million plus tear down, that concerns me. But I also am open to the concept of it, in the sense that we don't know what the cost would be yet. And if there's anything that incentivizes me to be open to it, it's the industrial part, because we have been trying to get more industrial property. Now, does that make this a good move? I can't say that it does, but I am curious, is there an opportunity here? We just don't know what that cost is. So do we have a feeling for what a commercial appraisal on this would cost? How much would the EDA have to invest?
Well, we do have funds budgeted for property acquisition. We have about $500,000 actually in the East EDA budget for that. And so, no, I do not know how much it would cost to appraise this property, but this is a number that's very minor in comparison to $500,000 in the budget.
Because I mean, I don't think we can get anywhere without having that
See, that's
appraisal
what
done.
I don't
And
want.
the question to me then today for us is it worth doing an appraisal?
What is an appraisal on an unsellable property?
So
The market decides what a piece of property is worth. And if you can't sell it to anybody except the government, there's only one buyer.
See, that's my understanding of what, and I'm still a little confused on when the owner came to us and said, hey, I got a parcel of land and whatever he asked. And we said, somehow, what I understood, and Stan, again, I'm just gone, so I maybe missed something, but, sorry. But it sounded like that was the end of the deal, that his purchase agreement went away because of after the meeting with the township. So explain that, why that happened and what needs, and maybe you already did, as far as we need to get the zoning changed on it in order to be able to sell it as the existing buildings.
So in our report, we talked briefly about that. We talked more about it previously, as you said. Peter Galloway, our zoning administrator, and I meet often with folks interested in doing a development project or building addition, various things. And sometimes they have concept plans, they are about to submit them, they just want to make sure that they haven't made any significant errors or omissions. Other times it's more kicking the tires. What if we could, or where could we? We had a request to meet. This was from the listening ear folks. The public previously, so I can say that. The listening ear folks have a number of offices around town. They were looking to consolidate their operation they preferred into one existing building. About 25,000 square feet is what they said. They have not been able to find that 25,000 square foot building. I think they suffered somewhat because of the county's challenges that reduced the supply of available office space. But they looked at this site. It didn't meet their goals entirely. They weren't all in one building, but it got at least close to hitting that square footage that they were looking for and bringing them all together in one property. So they had pursued looking at purchase of this property, and came to us to talk about that project. In working with them, we asked them to lay out what do you intend to do, and we then looked at the zoning of the property, looked at the use, we looked at the issues we talked about with legal non-conforming uses on that property, and we also looked at what they proposed to do, and what we found was what they proposed to do was well beyond even what could be called office. They were talking about potential emergency housing and some other activities that wouldn't even fit in an office environment. So what we shared with them was that the property was not zoned properly for what they wanted to do, and that if they wish to pursue it, that they would have to pursue a rezoning. And in that particular case, it would likely be using that planned unit development option that we have in our ordinance, where we can look at a project that may be beneficial, may have public benefits, but doesn't necessarily fit the specific box of the general industrial zoning district. All I know from there is that what the owner shared with this board is that they chose not to continue with that purchase. But please understand that first of all, number one, nobody has said this property is unsellable. Yeah. Nobody has said that this property doesn't have allowable uses. It does. Mm-hmm. Even within the general industrial district, there are a number of different things that this property can be used for right now that don't need any, maybe a couple need a special use permit, but they don't need a rezoning or an amendment to the ordinance. The problem is that for the four buildings anyway, principal offices, a standalone office is not one of those things that can be used for.
Explain that, why I understand tribal sovereignty a little bit, but it's a real thing. So explain to me a little bit on why the fact that the tribe leased those buildings somehow changes.
So the property was developed in 1980, 1981. It's listed as coming into occupancy, I think, in 1981. It was developed under a 1971 zoning ordinance, which did allow offices, the standalone principal use in the industrial district. About the same time this property would have been occupied, the 1981 zoning ordinance was adopted. That's the one that changed it. That ordinance changed offices to only allowed as an accessory use. Every ordinance since then, the 91 ordinance, the 2020 ordinance, have continued that process. So that's been in place for 40 years. So for almost the entire length of time that Petro Plaza has existed, offices have been a legal non-conforming use. Now, under that 81 ordinance, they were legally protected. That's what it's sometimes called grandfathering. but the language is legal nonconforming. It simply means that it was legal when it was established. It later became illegal because of a change to the zoning ordinance. And under the State Zoning Act, it is protected. It can continue to exist there until the use ceases. It's changed to something else, some other conforming use, or some other use that's allowed. So in '81, up until when the tribe occupied those 4 buildings, offices were the legal nonconforming use of that site, all the Petroplaza. The tribe is a sovereign nation. They have, and the Enterprise Industrial Park is entirely within the boundaries of the Isabel Indian Reservation. The tribe has owned some land right near there, and as a sovereign nation, they have a lot of ability to do what they choose to do. I don't know exactly how the tribe came to occupy that site initially. I don't know if there was any kind of approval process from the township. I suspect there was not. Frankly, we have the same problem with their current location. We had some conversations with them about the transfer of authority from our building department to theirs. Well, that didn't go anywhere. And they have it, and we respect that tribal sovereignty. So the tribe occupying those 4 buildings was a lawful change of that use because the tribe had the lawful authority to occupy those buildings and have their tribal college operate on that site under their authority. So as far as our zoning ordinance is concerned, that then became the legal nonconforming use of that property was the institution of higher education. And so that's the challenge we have now. When they did that, they replaced the former legal nonconforming use office with higher education.
And that's a different zoning
Different thing.
classification.
Yep. Different standards, different definitions. It was a change of use for those 4 buildings.
So it did, and because that changed legally, lawfully changed, it can't ever go back to anything else.
The office
without
use of those 4 buildings ceased. Yes,
Yes.
as far as the ordinance and the state act would define it, it ceased and was replaced with this other lawful use. And at that point, we can't go back unless we amend the ordinance or rezone the property.
Okay. Thank you for explaining that.
Can I follow up on that briefly? So if I have a non-conforming non-conforming use on a property, if I cease using it with that non-conforming use, but then, let's say I just don't do anything with it, it's vacant or whatever, but I've stopped using that. So I can't come back 7 years later and reinstitute that use because I've kind of given it up at that point?
That's a great question. We're getting into the law, in case law. I don't mind sharing some examples of that, but our ordinance says that I believe it's a year, if I recall. Zoning ordinances generally will say if the activity ceases for 6 months or a year, sometimes 18 months, then it's determined to have ceased. So if there's no activity for a year, in our case, then as far as the zoning ordinance is concerned, that use no longer is protected. From a practical standpoint, we do have to respect case law in this matter, and various cases have allowed a little bit more flexibility in that. This is a different activity. It was a junkyard in another community downstate. They had 250,000 tires in this junkyard, in addition to the various vehicles. The owner had died. The township had sued the heirs to get it cleaned up. They had been suing the previous owner, and with great effort and over a span of about 5 years, the site was cleaned up, and it actually was vacant. It was empty. The fence was still there, but there was nothing on the ground anymore. It sat that way for some time, much longer than the year or whatever it was that would technically mean the junkyard had ceased, because the junkyard was a legal non-conforming use in this district. A new owner purchased it and wanted to establish a junkyard, essentially, a salvage yard on that site. Township bought it. And I don't recall the details of the legal matter. That much of that happened after I was no longer working with them. But essentially, in the end, as I understood, the judge basically said that the use had not ceased because the fence was still there and nothing new had come in to replace it. There was not a new activity on that site. And the functionality of the fenced enclosure and gravel, in the interior, the needs for a junkyard was still in place to support somebody bringing a couple new cars in. So in that case, like I said, it certainly found that the use had not ceased, even though the time frame had been met. In this case, it's clear that the use ceased simply because it was replaced with something entirely different, and that new thing has been there for many, many years. So we really cannot go back on that. But more importantly, I'm not sure, from an economic development perspective, I'm not sure that we want to. As noted in the report, the office market is very different. It was already changing before COVID. COVID accelerated those changes. You probably heard just, I think it was today in the news, that General Motors is leaving the Renaissance Center. They occupy 1.5 buildings in the Renaissance Center. They bought it. That was going to be their place even just 2 years ago. The CEO was saying we're going to be in the rents then. The problem they have is that most of it's empty. Their workers are working remotely, and very happy doing so. And so they're paying to heat and cool a large building that's empty, and more importantly, the support businesses down in the main floors, the restaurants and the food service and the convenience stores and all of that stuff that's down there in the main level, they don't have any customers. There's no people there because the workers are all remote. So they announced today, if you haven't heard, they've announced they're moving into the new building going up on the old Hudson site on Woodward Avenue, where they're going to take a whole lot less office space than they currently have in the rent center because they don't need it. That really is the issue that we have generally in the office market, is that for businesses that has changed. We have a much more interest in hybrid work, kind of hotel spaces where people come in and use that space for a day, and then working remotely on other days, or a conference room to come in for a meeting and then leave. My brother works for Airbnb in San Francisco, and he does most of his work remotely just because he can. But he and his team, and he has a very large network engineering team, will come in periodically to have meetings, and they just come into the space, they use the conference rooms, they take care of their business, and they're on their way again. But much of the work that's getting done is getting done off-site. So the need for office space has changed. What that means is the office spaces that exist have to be adaptable and have to be attractive. They have to be a place where you really want to be. And these low-rise, small buildings just don't get there. Just around the corner, I won my business retention business late last year. We got to tour buildings being used. It's in the corporate tax business. And they have renovated a building. It's beautiful on the inside, and high ceilings, open, lots of windows, various kinds of spaces. Some are private offices, some are communal spaces, some are conference rooms. And as they said, people come and go all the time. And at a given moment, only a small portion of their employment is in the building. But nonetheless, a building is very, very attractive to come to work. And that is the key for any future office development, really, is to kind of be up to that upper level in terms of character.
Balanced out by rent costs, because some people are going to go for low rent instead of nice looking buildings. They're going to want lower. But that's besides the point, because we're talking about a zoning issue, not the buildings.
All right, I think we've probably heard enough. Rodney's done a good job advocating the position. I'll grant you that. Still not there yet, but I guess I'm to the point to go ahead and I feel comfortable authorizing, I don't know whether you put a dollar amount on the appraisal.
I understand actually about $5,000, but I mean, if you want to say I mean, if you really want to put a dollar amount, you could, but
No,
about
if,
5,000.
if you're comfortable that, and to me, 5,000, I don't know why it would take any more. It's not a very big parcel. It's, I mean, I don't know. I just don't want to end up going overboard. But I think that's one piece of the puzzle, what it's worth as is. I think the second piece of the puzzle is how much it's gonna cost to demo it. Now, if this was built in the 80s, maybe there's not a lot of asbestos abatement needs to be done. But the county, it's not that much younger than the county building, and we've all seen that debacle. So that's a piece that's very significant. You know, I know we spent $20,000 tearing down a little shed on Yass Drive. So you can only imagine if you gotta go in those buildings and do significant abatements, business abatement, that could be a big cost. So it'd be nice, for me, doing numbers, the three pieces are, what's it worth as it is, what's it gonna cost to tear it down, and once we return it to a green site, how much is it worth? And then that'll tell us what what our net investment's gonna be. And I'm willing to listen at this point.
That's where I'm at.
That's exactly, I'm not saying I'm against buying it, I'm not saying I'm for buying it, I don't think we're there.
No,
I think
we need more information.
we need to model it,
Yep.
multiple scenarios, demolition.
Yep.
We should, if we're not buying, we should do everything we can to assist
Bingo.
selling it
Yes.
and assist the realtor and assist the possibility of attracting some mega operator, then we are that facilitator, whether, I
Yeah.
think that's our conviction as the DDA, a task we're supposed to do.
It would be a lot, I would feel more comfortable if we had a bird in the hand and we had to kick in a little bit to make the deal go down, than just, doing all the work ourselves and hoping they come. There's a lot of stories about DDAs buying properties they didn't have any business buying and just sit, and I don't wanna be a board member of one of those. So, I guess,
We gotta acquire, we have to do some more homework to do these models and
Yep.
talk more intelligently about the whole deal.
so, I'm ready to make a recommendation, but I'm gonna have to start winning stuff, so are you comfortable with that, or you got the tape recorder on?
Talk slow.
All right, move to determine that the potential purchase of the Petro Plaza parcel located at 2250, 2284 Enterprise Drive, PID 14-152-00-008-00 in the Enterprise Industrial Park can be consistent with economic development priorities for the East DDA District and the Enterprise Industrial Park, and to authorize the director to secure an independent appraisal of the property, a rough estimate of the cost to demo the existing buildings, and finally, what the vacant land would be once the demolition has occurred.
Value.
Yeah, the value.
I would second that motion.
Got a motion by Zalad, support by Fig. Did everybody get that motion? Not sure I did.
Yeah, well,
You got that?
Yeah, I
I'm
think
gonna
key,
have to, I don't have it word for word, but
Okay.
I'll redo this for you to sign one.
Well,
you can look at the tape, but like I say, the two things are to do the appraisal as in the motion. The second
Demo.
thing is to do
Cost.
a rough demo cost estimate, and again, that's gonna be a swag, but talk to
Rough
some
estimate.
But see,
people.
that's where I'm going with that. I mean, do we need like a engineer or architect consultant to help these guys put these models together? Because we're just doing what you said, like those 3 basic tasks, but there's also a heck of a lot more to it. You know what I mean? We're gonna get these guys going, then
The one thing.
they're
and I
gonna
think-
need more resources.
I think on our demo projects already, there's a contractor, I think we probably have a preferred contractor that does asbestos abatement. They helped us on the Yates Drive, and I think they helped on the one on the corner. And I don't think he's exorbitant to come out and do a survey.
Can I ask you, if you did the appraisal of the property and then the demo, and then would it be appropriate to have the appraiser put a value on the vacant land when he did his
I
appraisal?
would think so. I mean, he's
'Cause he
got all
had
the
some-
information, so that.
Kind of halfway there.
That'd probably be a pretty cheap add-on to do that. But if we want to add, pay for, I'm gonna say, do you remember what we paid?
I don't recall it right offhand, not, to.
But it's
to do that.
fairly modest to have him come out and do a,
Appraisal.
Wouldn't that be like a phase 1? But couldn't we just have the appraiser do like a phase 1 or phase 2 on it?
yeah, and I guess that's where I'm at, is go through and he's done enough of them. He's gonna look at the age, he's gonna know, yep, you got
Right.
caulking, you got the linoleum, you got, you look
Buried
at the
fuel
road.
tank in the back.
Yeah, well, but I guess I could amend the movement to pay for, authorize for an asbestos survey, because that really is a huge. I mean, if he comes in there, it's right in, as they were phasing asbestos products out, and so maybe we got beyond there and there isn't very many.
But let these
Fingers
2 guys
crossed,
rate the scope.
because it could
You guys-
be the other
You know,
way.
you following us? It's like-
I mean, have you got enough direction?
I believe we do, yes.
I guess my intent is to do enough of a survey that we can greatly enhance what the cost of demolition is gonna be.
Right.
I
I
think-
believe we have the direction.
Okay, and if that's enough information, I would add to the 4th item is to, authorize, an asbestos survey of the property to determine potential demolition cost, if that makes sense.
Marty, you seconded that, right?
Yep. We got a
Yes.
motion by
Support the
Zalet,
amendment.
support by Big.
Yeah. Oh, that's right, we did get an amendment, so.
Any more comments? You have that all, you think? Good, all right. He's
Just
good.
last note, real quick.
Yeah.
At least our assessor has the vacant land at 147, so we'll see what the assessor comes up with.
147.
Land value, 147,000.
Oh, they break it out. Okay, that's interesting.
Now, I don't know how accurate that
No,
is, how,
no, and
last time it was updated.
Yep, no, I would, a fresh appraisal would be.
Yes.
That was for the
Okay, yeah, but-
2.8 acres is one?
Correct.
So going back to that motion, we
Yep.
got motion by Zalet, support by Fig. Any more comments explicitly on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. The motion is approved. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for all your wisdom there, Jim. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
No, that was a great discussion. I appreciate the dialogue and getting me up to speed. Thank you.
Now, moving on to agenda item 9D. So we have a joint meeting tomorrow?
Yes, 6 o'clock. Where's the location again? Jameson, I was thinking that. I believe there'll be snacks there of some sort. Veggie tray.
Are you
and-
going?
Yeah, I'm gonna be there.
You're going? Good, because I didn't write a speech, so I'm counting on, I'm just gonna
Yeah,
introduce
yeah.
you guys.
There you go.
Well, I wasn't gonna do the EDA part.
Oh,
You're all certainly welcome and encouraged to attend. It is a very interesting conversation, and it's worth being a part of it.
Do you mind
Yeah.
if I interject?
Go.
So this meeting is joint board, so Planning Commission, EDA,
Zoning?
Zoning Board of Appeals.
Zoning Board of Appeals, and the Board of Trustees are in attendance at some level. The intent of this is a fewfold. Maybe a little bit more different this year, or focused differently this year. But one is to just inform the other boards to help people that serve around in our community of the big picture, right? You get to hear what the planning commission is doing, what they have done. But in 2023, this would have been at the end of the year, we got results from a community survey. Maybe we didn't have the results yet. We recently got the results from the community survey. Some of you may have taken it. And that'll be the third community survey that's been done over the last roughly 12 years. It's interesting to see the priorities of our residents, businesses, and I think so. I think the Board of Trustees doesn't want to hear just from them. They would like to hear from those that serve in our community where they'd like to see the township go. Does that make sense? And this lays the framework then for the budget process that begins not too far down the calendar year. So it's not just looking back to hear what's been done, but a little bit of looking forward.
Yeah, it's a good meeting. I've been to it. Marty was there last year.
It's a good meeting.
So if
Definitely
we have
encourage
input-
everybody to attend if you can't make it.
And free snacks.
And if you haven't seen the renovated Jameson Hall.
Yeah, we need
Yeah.
to do that. We need to get over there, so.
So my only advice would be, since Tom's writing the speech tonight apparently,
I just say, look at the website. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Look at all the bullet points on it.
but if there's things in particular
double
that,
check it,
that
make
the
sure it's
EDA would like to voice to the other boards and or the Board of Trustees, now's a great time to formulate that message.
Yeah.
As a body versus as just a board member too.
Thank you.
Anything else on that? 9D?
I guess the question is, if there's any discussion, if you would like to have a discussion on that, get some advice from your board, since you're in need to have that speech ready.
Sure.
You can certainly put it on your board members to tell you what.
Didn't you
need to
have something, Bob, about, you were gonna try to come up, or we were talking about a resolution of support to the Board of Trustees for,
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
this is
about the,
wind turbine?
alternative energy, us giving up, townships just giving up their local autonomy on that.
That, you did get that, right? That was sent out, the one that the board passed was sent out.
Okay.
I don't-
Yeah, I think that's just something to bring up for all the boards. just
Yeah.
as a-
That,
Something we can all agree on, pretty much, that they're states taking authority away from local units,
Yeah.
and pretty much everyone can kind of go like, oh wait,
yeah,
we'd like to have our own say in what's done locally.
yeah, here.
Yeah.
Marty, you plan on attending again, or no?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
The only thing I would add is, you know, we are in a position, as we discussed, we do have some funding available. And, you know,
Yeah.
been on this board, I mean, when it was on the West DDA board, it was a lot simpler. We had a lot of infrastructure needs, and you wouldn't see the development over there if the West DDA hadn't built a lot of stuff. And there's still some big capital projects in my mind that we can be saving our pennies to do.
that's-
Speaking of which, I saw that there was a meeting about the private roads ordinance, and that was adjusted and changed for, is that gonna open up a potential industrial development that recently got a, kind of put into our boundaries?
Yeah, Rodney, you can jump in too, but that was just a general ordinance for the township as a whole. I don't know
It
if
didn't have
that
any
was
specifically to do
directed,
with like, that
Right.
area of North Packard where we
right?
incorporated, because I mean, I'm all for, let's put some infrastructure out that way, and,
Yeah,
And
I'd love to
that-
say, spend money on putting utilities out there.
yep,
That was my one reservation with what we had tonight, not one, but
Yeah, say what.
discussing this building in the other park. I thought, well, we need more industrial land, that's why we brought that in.
I mean, I'd really like to have money in our guns for, for that project if it becomes available.
so, and so, yeah, I think but the East DDA, being much more mature, you know, where we struggle a little bit at where to spend our money. And it isn't like, I wanna just, we gotta spend it, let's spend it, just because we can, doesn't mean we should. But, I think there's, just like Bob said, that area that you annexed, brought into the, and I understand there's some legal issues with,
Yeah.
what's going down on, Airport and Packard, but that is an area that could be churched up.
Yeah.
And if we can build some roads or do something to make some visible improvements, I'd have to believe it'd help that area.
Yeah.
And not saying that that's one thing over the other, but I think that when we do get the information that we authorized, I think, we're gonna wanna look, okay, if it's gonna cost us $1 million.
There'd be a lot more return on our investment there.
Where can we get the best bang for our buck?
We'd get a
for
lot
$1
more
million?
return there, yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
but it was a great discussion, but I would say, yeah, if the community's got some, some ideas, I'd love to hear some ideas from the community on projects in that area. And especially in the east, like I say, I think we're, still have plenty of needs in the west, but, it'd be nice to get some opinions there, because that is one thing, especially, like I say, we had some money set aside to do the water project, and, again, staff did a great job and found some funding, so, that's off our plate, but let's, it is a challenge being on this board, is where's the best place to allocate those dollars you have. And if you don't work at it, it keeps piling up, and at some point, it becomes a target. And we're probably getting close to that point.
Were you gonna update us on that area on the road?
I can, you mentioned, already the private road ordinance is simply an update to the general ordinance that governs how private roads are regulated. The current ordinance has significant challenges to it, and updates are intended to address those challenges. It doesn't specifically target that area. Interestingly, those roads were intended to be public in that industrial area there. Airport Road, of course, is public. The others were intended to be, but apparently the developer did not finish the job to get them accepted by the County Road Commission. So only corporate drive was accepted as a public road. We certainly would like to pursue it. I've seen the legal descriptions for the rights of way for most of those internal roads, and most of them reference them as public roads. But the County Road Commission has not accepted them, so they are, in that sense, in limbo. I suppose they're essentially private roads at this point.
No.
In order to pursue a project there, to get those roads updated, especially to get them updated to be Class A public roads, that would be suitable for the level of truck traffic, and to eliminate the cul-de-sac turnaround airport that's kind of an attractive nuisance and other things. We will need to get all the property owners on board. I've had some conversations with some of the property owners along there. Just had another one. Gentleman's buying one of the buildings over there. Just talked to him last week, and he was certainly interested in being a part of trying to get something done with those internal roads. But that is definitely going to be a longer term process, because we are going to have the cooperation of all those property owners to make it happen.
Good, thank you.
I don't know if this is off the subject, it's off the subject, but I don't know if we want to change subject or finish, but before we close, I haven't been in the meetings, but I looked through the information and I was trying to see if there'd been any further investigations into the irrigation project.
Our plans.
And I apologize if I've missed,
Yeah.
that subject, but
Yeah.
otherwise, I'm interested in where we're at, if you don't mind.
Well, let's finish this one up, because we
Okay.
still have 10 and 11 to go.
I will tell you that will be a future agenda item, because it will be coming back to you for more discussion. So let's hold that for our.
That's all I was interested in.
Yep.
Thank you.
So any more ideas for tomorrow?
I think one of them that is really interesting from a standpoint of the EDA, the township, the county, the tribal community, and the state are all part of the contribution that we make, and are a big part of our budget and our expenses go to what ends up being a one word in my mind is connectivity. Pathways, sidewalks, roads. And the roads in our community, in my mind, are pretty good. They're pretty darn fit. They're not breaking apart. You can always find places that they're not up to snuff, but for the most part, our paved roads have really been well taken care of and improved and maintained. And then even added to from gravel to asphalt. And that expands throughout the county, going south all the way to Shepherd and beyond. Going north all the way to Clare, going east, going west. I think it's a big thing that can be looked at as an accomplishment, but yet something that we can look forward to as what else can we do to do it better? How much further can we go? How much more can we dive into it? Because the road commission building says so much. When you drive by there and you go, wow, this place has got a nice road commission building. I do that when you go through other communities. You go, oh, it's a pretty nice building, even though it's, out in the middle of nowhere. And up there in Antrim County, they have a nice building. But
I like that.
I just think that would be something to, all of us can hang our hats and realize, what else can we do more? Connectivity is important. And I think sidewalks and motorless pathways might be one of our real possible focal points that we could say, let's do a little more. Let's really say, how far can we go with that concept? Because Ithaca to Mount Pleasant, coming on US 127 motorless pathway is pretty impressive. And then we've got the rail trail nearby going north, the rail trail to the south, not too far. Just seems like, we're in the center. We're a connectivity place in a lot of ways anyway. So maybe that's something we can, as a board, spark a thought.
Oh, yeah.
Connectivity.
I got some
Interesting
ideas.
enough, the citizen survey, the number one priority was roads and connectivity, speaking to pathways, sidewalks. Those were the top two things as far as what we should spend our money on. Which is not surprising, but
Nope.
it's reaffirming,
Yep.
Right on.
And the positive side of it is, you can go down almost any road and say, wow, my tires aren't getting banged up and I'm not dodging holes and the road's pretty smooth. So that's another positive too, and we're just thankful we have so much support from our local governments to do good roads, because it does show. I think it brings a lot of people in. That's part of the reason they come here, because we show them. Ronnie was talking about the corridor coming down through Pickerton. What another thing that might be able to say, well, we kind of, are proud of what we did in the township to Pickard Road. And that was a lot to do with the East DDA. So, there's another thing right there. Pickard Road sat there. I'm in the state too, but yeah, there's another thing that is on the kind of a positive thing for us.
So moving on to item 10, pending business. Everything there? What about item 11, director comments?
Just a couple quick items. You've obviously seen the 2024 version of the M20 road construction that is well underway. Just want to mention with regards to what they did last year, talking about some of our improvements on there. You've probably seen the grass, replanted grass is growing in well on the south side of the road. That side had more time. On the north side, it's a little spottier, a little thinner. The contractor is aware of that, and folks from MDOT indicated that they do guarantee their work. They will be coming back and taking care of areas that have eroded, reseeding and such. I don't have a time on that, but my understanding is that they will be doing that this spring. Anyway, but just wanted to give you that quick update on that piece of our M20 corridor puzzle. With that, if you have any other questions, I'm happy to entertain them.
did you get your irrigation question answered?
Pretty much, where it's gonna be an agenda item next time,
Yeah,
is
we'll
there
bring-
anything that we could be mulling over during that time, or is it?
Well, we have,
just-
we have that cost estimate that our contractor provided, and we certainly can put that back in the packet again. Where we left it was up in the air. There was certainly differences of opinion. We weren't, at the time it was discussion, we weren't asking for any action. And so I think we'll start, we'll put that estimate information back in the packet and bring it back for further discussion, and hopefully we'll get some direction as what would be best to proceed. Certainly, there's value in having that irrigation there. The work that MDOT did, they set it up so we can put it back. All the passageways into the driveways are there. So it's just the cost of doing that. So we'll have it for your next meeting, and I think we'll have some different options to consider, and look to move that forward.
If, I would probably just comment that if there's, I'd be curious what the legal, and again, I think boards have great flexibility to do what they damn well please. But I don't know whether we break it up into, if there's a way that we can break it up into smaller chunks, just to facilitate keeping an advantage to the local contract. It's probably the best way to say it. I don't want to just give $500,000, no bid to anybody. I think the optics on that, regardless of the situation, look horrible. But please, as you're getting stuff around, or you're developing some alternatives, give some consideration to what different contracting, whether it's a design build really doesn't do you much because they all do their own, design and build. But what I personally, as one board member, really don't want to do is have a $500,000 project and see it come from someone from out of state, and they'll blow it in, do what they got to do to get paid, leave, and then we're going to pay the local guy to maintain it. I just, if there's a way we can do that, I would be wholeheartedly in support of it. So I'll just, shut up.
That's kind of where I was, design build, or
Yeah.
hire an engineer, landscaper separate, get the broad parameters. Because last time we were talking like Toro versus the manufacturers doing the major
Yeah,
work
and a lot of them will.
with our local
Yeah.
guys. So maybe we get a couple of them.
Well, we got one local guy is the problem.
You know?
So.
Wow, but there's a couple different manufacturers.
Yeah, no, and
Outside.
like you say, but if you could look at the contracting methods, I would strongly encourage to do that, because, going out in the hard bid world, you get what you get a lot of times. And,
Because the other thing I noticed, we're kind of stuck last time talking about this. We don't have really good information. We got a ballpark 400,000, and I know that freaks a couple of board members
Yeah,
out.
oh yeah, it's
But we
huge
need
number.
to get some more, get that refined, and like you said,
Well,
maybe
maybe we
different-
bid, maybe what we do is we take a smaller chunk, pick a critical area that we want to make sure we do. We're on the start on one end and work our way down. You'll tighten up your costs, and you always have the opportunity just to extend the contract.
yeah, so that we get some good unit prices. We can
Yeah, you
start
got some
to
unit prices,
extrapolate
you can,
forward.
They're doing a good job, that's an option, but those are the kind of discussions, if you can have the staff, as to, because that's what I see, if we just appropriate $500,000 to go do this project, we'll be paying twice, is my feeling. So, anyway, it's 6 o'clock, so it's.
Yeah. What else we got? Anything else, Rodney?
Nothing else
Are you good? Anybody else for the good of the order?
No.
See you tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Yeah, see you tomorrow night,
And
6
then
o'clock,
call it 6:05, adjourn. Thank you.
24 hours. We'll be back at it.